Hey everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Goose Talk. This show is brought to you by gooseittc, and we're diving deep into fascinating trends that are shaping the modern workplace. Today, we're tackling something you all know, and maybe even love to hate: commuting. But not just any commute. We're talking supercommuting.
What's fascinating here is that it's not just about grabbing a coffee and hopping on the train anymore. We're seeing a real shift in commuting habits post-pandemic, with people traveling further than ever before.
Exactly. In fact, our own gooseittc LinkedIn post highlighted how supercommuting is becoming increasingly common. But what exactly is supercommuting?
Well, think 40 miles or more each way. Wayleader, a company specializing in workplace technology, shared that a whopping 18% of commuters now fall into this category. That's a significant jump from the pre-pandemic figure of 16%. A 2% increase might not seem like much, but it represents a substantial shift in how we approach work and where we choose to live.
Wow, almost 1 in 5 commuters are going the distance. That makes you wonder, is this the new normal? You, the listener, might even be a supercommuter yourself. Or maybe you know someone who is.
It's interesting to consider how this trend is reshaping our cities. Think about the impact on infrastructure,
Hmm.
housing markets, even our social lives.
And speaking of social lives, remember that LinkedIn post from Liz Major? She asked if anyone would consider moving further away and supercommuting for those in-office days, if it meant keeping the flexibility of hybrid work. It's a trade-off a lot of people are grappling with.
It's a huge question. And it's not just about individual choices. The Arizona Private Lenders Association pointed out how these super commuting patterns are influencing the commercial real estate market. As more people live further from traditional city centers, the demand for office spaces in different locations shifts, creating a whole new dynamic.
So we've got people possibly moving further away from cities, a potential shift in where offices are located. What does this all mean for the individual worker, though?
Well, this is where it gets really important. Supercommuting isn't just about longer car rides or train journeys. It has a profound impact on well-being and how companies operate.
Elle Chambers and Matt Smith both brought up a really crucial point on LinkedIn about commuting's negative impact on job satisfaction and overall well-being. It's easy to overlook the toll that daily travel takes on us.
Absolutely. Matt Smith actually did a calculation, and it's pretty startling. The average commute, which is about an hour each way, translates to 18 lost days per year. Imagine 18 extra days to spend with family, pursue hobbies, or just catch up on sleep. That's a powerful way to frame the hidden cost of commuting.
Wow, 18 days. You're right. That really puts into perspective. Makes you wonder if that hybrid work flexibility is worth the extra commute time.
And those 18 days are often filled with stress, fatigue, and missed opportunities for personal time. All of that directly affects a person's quality of life and ultimately their performance at work.
It's a potential clash, isn't it?
Yeah.
We want the flexibility and better work-life balance that hybrid work offers, but then longer commutes could eat into that very balance.
Exactly. This raises an important question. How do we navigate this new landscape and find a sustainable approach that benefits both employees and employers? This is something we at gooseittc are thinking deeply about.
We are. That's why we're doing this deep dive, to get people thinking about these big changes.
So we've talked about the impact on individuals, but how are companies adapting to this new reality of supercommuting? It's a fascinating challenge.
Right, because the old model of everyone in the office 5 days a week is fading fast. Companies need to evolve if they want to attract and retain top talent in this changing landscape.
Absolutely. And attracting and retaining talent is crucial for success. One key approach we're seeing is a real embrace of flexibility. We've already touched upon flexible work hours to give employees more options and lessen that commute burden.
It makes sense to
Why?
me. You can't just have a one-size-fits-all approach anymore. People need options that fit their lives.
Exactly. And technology plays a huge role here. Having really good video conferencing tools, collaborative platforms, and efficient communication channels is essential to making remote and hybrid work models seamless and productive.
It's like the tools themselves have to bridge that physical distance
Yeah.
and keep everyone connected no matter where they're working from.
Precisely. And the shift isn't just about logistics. It's about fostering a culture that values flexibility, trust, and results rather than just being in the office.
That's a really important point. It's about creating an environment where employees feel empowered and supported, whether they're at home or in the office.
And that brings us to another crucial aspect: communication. Clear and consistent communication is absolutely paramount in this new world of work.
You know, communication seems to be a recurring theme when we talk about successful hybrid work models. What specifically should companies be communicating about?
Honestly, everything. We're talking expectations about Work hours, availability, communication protocols, performance metrics, even social opportunities. It's about making sure everyone's on the same page and feels connected to the company culture even when they're not physically present in the office every day.
That sounds like a lot to manage.
Yeah.
Are there any companies that are doing this really well?
There are. And the companies that are successfully embracing these changes are seeing a real competitive advantage. They're able to attract a wider pool of talent, reduce overhead costs associated with traditional office spaces, and boost employee morale and productivity.
So it's a win-win if done right. But surely there are challenges too, right?
Yeah,
What are some hurdles that companies need to think about?
of course. One of the biggest is maintaining a sense of community and connection among employees who are geographically dispersed. It's easy to imagine how remote workers, especially those with long commutes, could feel isolated.
Yeah, if you're spending hours on the road or train,
Yeah.
you might not feel as connected to what's happening at the office.
Right, so it takes a conscious effort from both employers and employees to create opportunities for interaction and team building. Think virtual coffee breaks, online team building activities, or even occasional in-person gatherings to help bridge that gap.
Those are good ideas. It sounds like building a strong remote culture is a constant work in progress.
It really is. It requires continuous effort and adaptation. There's no one-size-fits-all solution.
So if we were to sum this up,
Yeah.
it seems like the key for companies is to embrace flexibility, prioritize communication, and build a culture that supports both in-office and remote workers.
Couldn't have said it better myself. But what does all of this mean for you, the individual listener, navigating this new world of work? In our final segment, we'll explore practical tips and strategies for thriving as a supercommuter, so stay tuned.
Welcome back to Goose Talk. We've covered a lot of ground so far, from the rise of supercommuting to its impact on individuals and companies. Now let's get practical. Whether you're a seasoned supercommuter or just starting to think about this lifestyle, we've got some tips for making it work for you, not against you.
It all starts with mindset. Instead of viewing that commute as lost time, what if you reframed it as time for yourself? Time to learn something new, relax, or just disconnect from the daily grind.
I love that. It's like turning your commute into a mobile classroom or personal sanctuary. What are some ways people can make the most of that time?
The possibilities are endless. Think about it. You could listen to audiobooks or podcasts, catch up on news or industry trends, learn a new language, or even meditate. What would you do, listener, if you had an extra hour or two each day just for yourself?
That's such a good question for our listeners to ponder. We talk a lot about work-life balance at gooseittc, and protecting your personal time is a big part of that. Even with a long commute, you can still set boundaries.
Boundaries are absolutely crucial, especially when work and personal life start to blur. It's essential to establish clear work hours and stick to them as much as possible. And consider creating tech-free zones at home to truly disconnect and recharge.
Here's a thought. Could companies help with this? Maybe providing resources for stress management, or even encouraging employees to use their commute time for personal development. It seems like this benefits everyone.
It absolutely does. And don't be afraid to communicate those boundaries to your colleagues and supervisors. Let them know when you're available and when you need to unplug. Setting expectations up front can prevent misunderstandings and a lot of unnecessary stress.
Communication is key no matter what. So we've talked about mindset boundaries. What about the commute itself? Are there ways to make those hours in the car or on the train less painful?
Absolutely. If you're driving, check out apps that help you find the best routes and avoid traffic. If you're using public transportation, use that time productively. Catch up on emails, read a book, or just relax and enjoy the view.
I've even heard of people using their commute time for exercise. If it's feasible, you could cycle or walk part of the way. It's a great way to get some fresh air, get those steps in.
There you go. Get creative, find what works for you, and remember, you're not alone in this. Connect with others who share similar experiences. There are online communities where supercommuters share tips and support each other. It can make a big difference to know you're not the only one out there making this work.
That's a great point. Community can be so powerful. So as we wrap up this first episode of Goose Talk, I think the key takeaway for anyone dealing with the supercommute is this. It's not about just enduring it. It's about making it work for you. Experiment with different strategies. Adjust as needed. And prioritize your well-being throughout the process.
And remember, the world of work is constantly evolving. Embrace the changes, stay adaptable, and keep an open mind. Who knows what exciting opportunities the future holds for supercommuters like you? At gooseittc, we're excited to be part of this conversation and help everyone navigate these big shifts.
Exactly. A huge thank you to everyone for joining us on this inaugural episode of Goose Talk. We hope this deep dive into the world of supercommuting has given you some valuable insights and practical tips.
And to keep the conversation going, we encourage you to check out more insights on the Goose ITTC LinkedIn page and website. We've got lots of great articles and resources there.
We'll be back soon with more fascinating topics to explore. Until then, happy commuting, everyone. Hey, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Goose Talk. This show is brought to you by gooseittc, and we're diving deep into fascinating trends that are shaping the modern workplace. Today, we're tackling something you all know, and maybe even love to hate: commuting. But not just any commute. We're talking